Well, hello. Hello to everybody that is joining us live and to those of you that are going to be watching this replay. Thanks again for spending some time here with me, Rebecca Radice, and as always, the lovely Diana Adams. Diana, hey.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Rebecca. And it's funny to hear you say Rebecca Radice, because I was on a podcast with Madeline Sklar last week, and we were talking about your greatness. And she said Rebecca Radice, and I said, oh, no. It's Rebecca Radice.
Radice. I love how you say that.
I love that name.
It is the true Italian pronunciation, right?
Oh, yes.
Oh, well, today we are here to talk about one of our favorite topics. And I know you are just chomping at the bit to jump in and talk about productivity.
Yes, I think that there are a lot of people in the digital space who talk about productivity. But this is something that I have specifically wanted to interview you about, as you know, for years. Because I didn't want to talk to you about it because productivity is your thing. I just wanted to talk to you about it because I don't know how you get as much done every day as you do. It blows my mind. And I am in a position where I can say that because I've worked with you on different projects on and off for years. And I see you run circles around everybody when it comes to productivity. So I've had this little list of things in the back of my mind. I thought, if I ever get to interview Rebecca about productivity, these are the things I'm going to find out. So I'm thrilled to be here because we get to actually do it.
Yeah, no, and as you said, it's a topic. I don't care what industry, what niche you're in. It's something we all struggle with, really managing our day and our time. And it's interesting, over the years, I'm on my 20th year, which is crazy to me, Diana, of being an entrepreneur. And you find a groove as far as your day-to-day is concerned. So I'm excited to share.
Okay, good. So as I think about productivity, kind of an overview of what productivity is and break it down to a daily basis, I think, okay, when I get out of bed in the morning, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a busy day. I've got this to do, this to do, this to do. But obviously, there needs to be some planning there if you're going to put your day together in a productive way. What kind of planning do you do? Because I know you do planning on a daily basis. How do you figure out what that one task is that you absolutely have to finish that day? How do you do that? Do you keep up with it like on a calendar online, or are these handwritten notes? I know you like to go old school sometimes. How do you do it?
Well, you're right. It does definitely start before you roll out of bed, because I think we've all been there where you're not planning, you're not really thinking ahead, and you roll out of bed, you check your notifications, you fall into the deep black hole of Facebook or Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Twitter. You forgot Twitter.
Oh, I could never forget Twitter. But before you know it, you come up for air and it's an hour later and you haven't gotten anything accomplished. And so I call it calming your crazy, which I know you and I have talked about, where you can't work in your business, you can't work on your business if it's always working on you. And that means that you're not taking the time to really think about what are those things, what are those to-dos that only you can do. So the day before, so at the end of every single day, I do an assessment. It's just a look at what did I get done?
Every day you do this?
Every single day. Yeah. Every single day I look at what did I accomplish? There's three things. What did I accomplish? what do I need to improve upon? So what can I make small adjustments on tomorrow that will allow me to improve in just one area? Because where people a lot of times get derailed is you're grasping at so many things and trying to accomplish so many things that your brain goes into total overload and then eventual meltdown, right? Yeah, so just focus on that one thing you can move the needle on tomorrow, how you can improve upon that. And then finally, you want to celebrate your big success. So take a look at what was the biggest success you had during that day, because again, too often, what do? We beat ourselves up over, I didn't get this done. I didn't get this done. I didn't get that done. And that negativity tends to spiral out of control, especially as entrepreneurs. You know, if you're working on your own, whether you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a speaker, you're an author, a lot of times we're spending a lot of time by ourselves. And that negative conversation in our head, if we allow it to get away from us, can move from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday. We're dragging that negative energy around with us. So
I know how that feels, and it's painful to hear you say it. I mean, even just hearing you verbalize it, I'm like shivery.
Right? Yeah.
Because I do that. I do that all the time. I hate that. Okay, I'm changing the habit. That's the first one. That's the first one I'm changing. And by the time we're done talking, I know I'll have a whole list.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big part of that is giving yourself grace in what you didn't accomplish. And so by just doing this quick little assessment review at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're freeing yourself up to really think clearly about what do I need to accomplish tomorrow. So another aspect of this, once I've kind of gone through that assessment, realigned myself with what I need to get done tomorrow, I do a complete brain dump. So I go through everything that didn't get done and decide, does this need to move forward? Is there somebody I can delegate that to? What needs to happen before I move this over to that next column, which would be Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday? And then you asked about prioritizing, and that's a really important one too, because this is another area where I see people get really tripped up, where you are prioritizing the things that are screaming at you because they are doing exactly that. Or you are prioritizing those low-level tasks that are easy, but not necessarily something you should be wasting your time on. So
yes. Oh, I wish you could repeat that like 10 times. We could do a whole entire live show like this just on that one topic.
Yeah.
Because to the stuff that's screaming at us, or at least when that happens to me, I'm like, all right, let me put that fire out. Let me put that fire out. Let me put that fire out. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh man, I didn't get to these things I wanted to do. This happens to me all the time. And you're saying focus on the things that are important to get done. Is that what you're saying? Or,
that's exactly.
I don't know how to word it. Right.
Well, and it's those few things, so handful of things that nobody else can do. They are also directly related to your bottom line. So if you are tasking yourself with 20 little things that are just keeping you busy but not productive, and at the end of the week, you wonder, why didn't I bring on a new coaching client? Or why didn't I get that new chapter of my book written? Or why didn't I get myself submitted to 3 more speaking engagements? Take a look at those busy tasks that are keeping you on that hamster wheel of stress, because that's what it really comes down to. So when you give yourself that freedom at the end of the day to take a clear look at what you accomplished, what you really succeeded at, what you need to move the needle on tomorrow, then you can filter through all of those additional tasks where you might have 20, 30 things that need to get accomplished, but do they all have to happen within the next 24 hours? If they don't, is anybody going to die? Is anything tragic going to happen?
Right.
And then is there somebody else that can help you? And that's another piece that I think too often, it's that martyr syndrome where we just take everything on and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so busy. I'm so tired. Well, stop. Stop taking everything on and feeling as if the whole weight of the world is on your shoulders. There are a ton of people that do certain things a whole lot better than you do. I know that for a fact with myself.
I don't know about that, but okay, I'll take that. Okay, yes, that's true.
Well, and when you give that stuff away, Diana, you know as well as I do, you're empowering other people to live in their sweet spot, to do what they do incredibly well. You're building those terrific alliances where you're able to support and promote one another. Right. So there's just so much value in that, and more than anything, it allows you to let go of quite a few things.
Right. I see a lot of our friends here. Natasha, hello. I saw Michelle. I'm seeing lots of you. Thank you all for being here.
Hey, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I move on to my next question, I want to back up to something you said. You said, I look at everything I'm doing. I decide what's important to move over to the next day, what's not. So what are you keeping track of this on?
That's a great question. And I have multiple different ways that I'm keeping track of everything. But for the most part, I'm pretty old school. So I love the physical act of writing. Oh, here, I'll show you. Give me 1 second here.
You know what feels good about handwriting? And I know that some people are going to see this and say we're both old, and I guess maybe we are to some people, but do you know what feels good? It feels good to manually cross stuff off a list.
Yes, it does. And I'll tell you, I have 500 of these. So I don't actually use this as my to-do list per se. This is just where it starts, and I just kind of dump it all down, and then I filter it out into the various locations.
Oh, so now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. You have phases of this.
Yes. So okay, let's say as a company and a team, we use Jira to manage all of our projects.
Right.
So certain pieces of that would need to go into Jira for next steps. For somebody else within the team, it would need a little bit more direction or guidance. So it allows me to start fleshing out my ideas, my thoughts. And so dependent on the scope of that particular task or brand new project, I'm going to, break that down completely before I pass that off. I'm also extremely visual, which I'm sure you didn't know that.
Queen of visual marketing.
Yes. Wow. And so I use my whiteboard all day, every day to really brainstorm, so mind map out ideas. And with that, let's see.
So when you say break stuff down, just to clarify this.
Yeah.
You're saying that you'll have a task on your list, but then that task might need to be broken down into 5 or 6 smaller tasks. So this,
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That probably would help with that overwhelming feeling too, because when you can break it down.
It does, and that's where the clarity comes in. So yeah, let's just start with writing it all down, and then from there, I'm going to take it and break that down into workable pieces. So this goes back to the part I talked about where if I try to come at a whole new campaign, so let's say we've got a webinar coming up on Thursday, and let's say there's 30 different pieces that need to happen as far as promotion is concerned. If I just sat there and allowed myself to sit in that, I'm totally overwhelmed, right? I'm like, how in the world are we going to get all of this done? Instead, I am going to transfer that one particular piece into a tool like Jira. and break down every single piece, with those 20, 30 moving pieces within that. So everything from creating the landing page to creating the event and GoToWebinar to all of the copy that's got to be created for social media. So all of those pieces. And now I can start to see each piece in its own sense, because obviously those all have little intricacies within them as well. But when you start to chunk it down, it becomes manageable. All of a sudden, that big overwhelming task is now broken down and chunked down into separate pieces. And now I can start to disseminate that. And that's where that comes in, as far as being able to give that away, being able to turn that over to somebody else that's going to be able to take it and run with it. And where we get stuck, Diana, is in the transfer of the information. So we start with writing down, okay, we're gonna do a webinar all about personal branding on November 2nd. And what's that going to look like? And I could get caught up in, oh my gosh, I got to write all the content. Oh my gosh, we got to put together the slide deck. Oh my gosh, we got to create all the graphics for that. We got to create all the copy. So when you stop and you just break each piece of that down, all of a sudden you release all of that stress. And now is where you can just pass that off, whatever your system is. Yeah. So you can almost feel that and melt away.
And that you can actually feel it physically.
Yeah, you really can.
Body. It's like if you carry stress. I know people carry stress in different places. I carry mine in my shoulders, where my shoulders will be all tense, and you can just feel like, put your shoulders down. I can't. I'm stressed out. But then when you let it go, it's like,
right, exactly. It really truly is an amazing feeling to allow people to help you and to have total clarity around that particular project or that assignment or that to-do. And even if you're not handing it off to somebody, this is a vital aspect to getting more accomplished, because when you chunk things down and you look at it and you say, okay, on my own, I can physically complete 3 of these to-dos today because I'm talking with 2 other clients, I'm doing sales calls, whatever it is that you've got on your plate. Besides these pieces, just be very honest with yourself in terms of how long are each of those pieces going to take. So that's another big piece of it too. As you start to break down those individual pieces, take a look at, okay, so if I'm going to create all the copy for this webinar, how long is that honestly going to take me? And am I going to need to spread that out over 2 or 3 days? Because that could be a little mind-numbing in and of itself from a creativity standpoint. So you just have to be really honest with yourself too, because if you're not, then again, you get to the end of every day and you're like, I suck. I'm terrible. I didn't get anything done. And it's because you just kind of sat in your own mess, right? And you sat and you spun and you got up and you walked around and you got a cup of coffee and then somebody called and your friend got you sucked into, some drama on Facebook. And before you know it, boom, your day's done.
Oh, Rebecca, no wonder you get so much done.
Oh, it is. It's a crazy world we live in, isn't it?
And it's with, I remember the first little tip you gave me years ago was you said you have no notifications on.
That is correct.
Social media. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Okay. And I take that back. I do have one on, which is Slack, because that is our main form of communication.
Right.
And so when I'm out, I want to make sure that I'm available to the team, that they can ping me. But yeah, other than that, notifications are evil.
Yeah, exactly.
They will, they will take your complete focus refocus. And I'm trying to think what the exact stat is, but every time your focus is pulled away, I believe it takes another 15 minutes to get yourself refocused and re-engaged. So think about that from a notification perspective, as things are binging at you and popping up on your computer or up on your mobile device. And you're like, oh, but I got to respond. Oh, but I got to go do this. Oh, I completely forgot to do that. You have to let that go and allow technology to work for you instead of against you. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that in one of our favorite topics, which is tools. So I won't get ahead of myself.
Okay, good. Some of what you said really resonated with me, and it made me think of something that I've seen you do for years that I've wanted to ask you about for the longest time. So I think I'm pretty productive, but
I think you're very productive.
I think I'm pretty productive. Doesn't even scratch the surface compared to your productivity. So I try to emulate what you do. No, I'm serious. Yeah. You are just, anyway, that's the whole reason we're doing this interview.
You need to be kinder to yourself.
Okay. So one thing you do that I want to get better at is, I remember we were talking one day and you said, oh yeah, I take my dogs for a walk every hour. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? My poor dogs get to go out like twice a day, and they're lucky for that because I don't have time. So and you know what? We'll be working on something and you'll be really into it. And then I'll realize she's doing this while she's on a trip with her husband to, some vacation. Or you always find a way to add your personal stuff into the day, excuse me, without it messing with your productivity. Excuse me. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that has been learned over many, many years, and it is a constant struggle. Let's be honest. The first thing that we usually let slide is our personal life, right? Where we're like, I've got to get all of these things done, and I don't have enough time. And so what do? We chip away at our personal time, thinking that someday we're going to be able to make that up. In fact, I was just watching Darren Hardy, Success Magazine, does what's called a Darren Daily. And this is the only text I get sent to my phone every single day. It's his video, because they're just so positive and uplifting. And I actually watch it while I'm walking my dogs first thing in the morning. And he was talking about dependent on your age, and the fact that I think for women, the lifespan is 80 years old, which truthfully seems awfully young to me. Yeah. But at my age, I have 5,000 work days left, basically, to get done everything I want to accomplish. Think about that. 5,000 days. That's it. 5,000 days to leave my mark on the world, to do everything, serve everybody that I want to serve. And so when you think about that, all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, I really need to guard my time. I really need to be very, very careful with where I'm spending my time and not allow business to chip away at my personal life. So yeah, a big part of that was, as I transitioned quite a few years ago from a brick and mortar situation to completely online, I was like, how can I fit more time into my day being out in nature, which is my favorite place to be? And I was like, oh, I have 2 little dogs that would love to get out with me.
Right.
They're super excited. So at the top of every hour, I would just take them around, and my whole block is about, I think, just a little over a half a mile. And so I just take them out and we walk around the block, and, back we come back in. And I've, moved off of that. I'm not doing every hour anymore, but it's every 2 to 3 hours, just so I can get up, I can stretch, I can get out of, being in front of my computer. It just is a world of difference when you can get today is a bad example. It's overcast here. Actually rained in Southern California this morning, which is shocking.
Right.
But when you can get out into the sunshine, it clears your head. Again, I think we can get so wrapped up in our world that it feels as if there's so much happening that we can't step away. And when you step away and you allow yourself to breathe and you allow yourself to enjoy all the wonderful beauty that is around you, all of a sudden you can come back with a very different perspective.
And I noticed that you're always happy no matter how busy you are. And I bet that plays a part of it. Because
for sure.
Because when I'm doing things, I can tend to get into a mode where I don't want anybody to bother me. I'm kind of grumpy, not trying to be grumpy, but in work mode, so to speak, where I'm just like punching away. But you don't seem to have that. You're just kind of light and happy.
Okay. So yeah, honestly, we all have those days, right? We all have grumpy days. We all have days where we're not our best self. And I just tend to try to turn that around in any way that I possibly can. So for me, it's all that internal dialogue, like I was talking about. It's looking at it from a different perspective of, instead of what I don't have, what I can't do, what hasn't happened, what can I actually get done? What do I have control over right now that I can go take action on? And that's really what everything comes down to for me, Diana, when I get into that, oh, woe is me. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day where she was saying, I just feel like I need to have a little pity party and then I can move on. And she's like, is that terrible? And I said, oh my gosh, are you kidding? We all do that every once in a while. And so I'll even joke with my husband. I'm like, okay, 5-minute pity party, go. I'm going to feel sorry for myself and then I'm over it. And sometimes it's just an easy way for me to release that negative self-talk or that frustration or that overwhelm that I'm feeling. And for me, it's always focusing on, what can I take action on right now? What can I do that's going to make a difference and immediately make me feel better about whatever is going on? And I find that action, for the most part, is a cure to just about everything.
Isn't it?
It really is.
It really is. So something you just said reminded me of a tweet that I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. But people on social media, have you noticed, even comment about your productivity? And I think it was Mike Alton or somebody. I thought it was him. And I went back to try to find it. Couldn't find it. He said something like, wow, Rebecca, in 1 week, you develop a new ebook and launch it. You launch a course on Udemy. You wrote 4 blog posts on prominent blogs. You make the rest of us look like slackers.
Oh, please.
All right. So my next question is about multitasking. What is your opinion about that? Because I can tell you, I've tried it, and it does not work. I just can't. I have to focus on one task for it to be done what I feel is the right way. So am I being a perfectionist, or is it true that multitasking is a myth, which some people say?
Yeah, many years ago, I would have had a very different answer. I thought that multitasking meant that I was performing at my highest level. I thought that multitasking was the way to get more done. Totally disagree. And it could just be that in the digital world, multitasking has taken on a whole different look and feel, where
I didn't think about that.
We are managing or trying to manage and juggle so many things, and it's absolutely impossible. And there's science to back this now. What it does to your brain when you are trying to manage so many different things at once. Especially if you are creative and you are, you just mentioned, creating an ebook or creating a course, those take a very deep thought, very deep focus, and you need to get into that space without any other distractions. And for me, what I always focus on is that rule of 80% for entrepreneurs, which is we get super excited, we take off on a project, and we get burned out at about 80%. And then we have all these projects hanging around at 80% because we bing, 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 we've moved on to the next project. And
you are describing my life.
Well, I think it's most, isn't it? I think it's just the nature of being a creative, and where you are on fire, you are so excited about this. And so that's where it becomes terribly important that you either have a mentor, you have an accountability partner, you have a team member that can come in and take that from you and run the rest of the 20% to get things to the finish line, because otherwise you end up with all of these open-ended projects that just never quite get completed. And here we are getting close to the end of 2017 and you're like, crap, what did I get done? I don't think I actually finished anything.
Okay. You're speaking specifically to me now, right? Okay, this is good. So yeah, I've obviously heard of the 80-20 rule, but I've never heard it in that context. That's so fascinating.
Well, and it's just what I recognized within my own business, that I could take something to about 80%, and then I needed a you that could come in and take a look at everything I'd written and give me a whole new fresh perspective on it and give all new energy to a project where I'm like, oh my gosh, Diane, I never thought of that. And then boom, I can finish it up. Or a Leanne that can just take it and run with the rest of the pieces. Or Sveta, who, is doing so much of the behind the scenes to help me pull all of those pieces together. So you just need to know your workflow, your processes. You also need to know your limitations and where you get stuck. And when you get stuck, you need to have those people and those systems and those processes in place that move you, that keep you moving forward, so that you don't have all of those projects, all of those, I wish I could have, I wish I had, at the end of the year. And every year you're just kicking the can forward saying, well, maybe next year I'll get that book written, or well, maybe next year I'll talk on a bigger stage, whatever it is.
Exactly.
And there's people and systems and processes you can put in place to ensure, okay, it's still going to happen. I could yell at Leanne all day long and say, why didn't you just know? Why didn't you just read my mind and know that I got stuck here? You've got to know yourself well enough that you can say, oh, I'm stuck. I need you to take it and run with it. Or know that at a certain point within a project, you're going to pass that off, and make sure that you're always passing it off to the right person that can just take that and help you get to that finish line, because that's such an unfortunate situation. In so many entrepreneurs' life is all of these just projects hanging out there that never get completed.
Right. Wow.
Leanne says she is a mind reader. And she actually is. That's why I used her as an example, because 9 times out of 10, she'll ping me, hey, did you blah, blah, blah need to give me this? Or, hey, I already got this done. And I'm like, damn, that woman is good.
I know. I saw that comment pop up here on our screen, and I totally lost my train of thought, because I thought, oh, she really is.
But yes, and that's why it's vital to have something in place, and it could be multiple different things, that your own triggers, and what keeps you from moving forward. You need to know what keeps you from being productive. What keeps you from finishing a project. And that's where you'll see a lot of times where I will push to get something done, and then just be like, here you go, guys, and pass it off. Because my failure is seeing that to the finish line. I want to move on to our next big project.
Right.
Where you guys are so incredibly incredibly good at the creative aspect and the detail and just so many pieces that my brain has already moved on from.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's just really understanding your own workflow, your own triggers, and then how to put those processes in place that keep you moving.
And it sounds like you're not trying to change yourself. You're focusing on your strengths. You're focusing on what you know you're good at, instead of saying, no, today I'm going to force myself to do XYZ. No, you know yourself well enough to know I'm going to focus on the part that is my strength. And then I'm passing it off.
Oh, that is such a great point, because, too often as entrepreneurs, we focus on what? We focus on our weaknesses.
Trying to improve our weaknesses instead of focusing on what we're strong at and really taking that and moving forward.
Right. Yeah. We're like, oh, I'm terrible at managing my time.
So I'm going to get, Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to do XYZ to figure out how to better manage my time. And before we know it, we are beating ourselves up. We've taken on learning all these new applications. So I am all about simplicity. Don't take on more than you need to. Don't learn a new tool if you don't have to. And B, focusing on your strengths. So what do you do better than anybody else? And what do you do that nobody else can do? Which is the beauty in our team, right, Diana? So each one of us has very specific skills, but we all overlap in a wonderful way. But we all have our key areas where we keep the ball rolling. And so it allows us to live in that sweet spot, that place where we just get to work and do what we have to do. And that's when you found the right people to surround yourself with. You found the right business partners or the right teammates. I mentioned that we've got a webinar coming up on Thursday, and it's the first time I have partnered with a really good friend of mine, Deborah Trapin, who we've never partnered before on anything, but it's a great partnership when she's kind of a mind reader, and I feel as if we've just, gotten that flow where we're working together, and every single day we're saying, okay, I got this done. Did you get this done? And we're holding each other accountable. So it's, it just goes back to putting those pieces in place that hold your feet to the fire. And that's another area where I think a lot of people are like, but I don't want to be accountable. Well, if you want to be successful, you don't have a choice.
That's right. And I'm excited about that webinar. I signed up for that. I love Deborah. She has great hair.
Oh my gosh.
I love her hair.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It's amazing.
Okay. So I want to make sure that we leave enough room at the end of the show today so that we can talk about tools, because that is kind of our tradition now. We talk about the tools at the end. But before we get into the tools, just another quick thing. So do you keep a schedule every day that you stick to and that you plan out? Or instead of keeping a time schedule, do you just say, I'm going to get these things finished, and however long that takes? Some days more, some days less.
Yeah, I definitely do. So I manage my calendar, and I just use Google Calendar. It's that simple. Again, goes back to simplicity. I think I've probably tried every calendar app, every to-do app out there, and I keep coming back to Google Calendar, because I have everything running through Gmail, and it's just so much easier when everything is in one location. And using reminders right there on my phone. So I always want to really preface everything I talk about that simplicity is really the key to scalability and to consistency. So you need to find what works best for you, what simplifies what you're doing, allows you to do it in a more productive way, and doesn't get in the way of what you're trying to accomplish. So for me, it's putting, I work according to the whole getting things done methodology. Been doing that for probably, 10 years, where everything is in my calendar. So that's everything on the professional and the personal side. And I am a firm believer in making sure that I make time for those things you were mentioning before, where date night with my hubby, or taking the dogs out to the dog park, or going to the beach, or whatever that looks like. Going to get ice cream, kind of my thing right now. I'm on an ice cream kick, probably because we've been having a heat wave. But
I'm always on an ice cream kick, which is not such a good thing. Okay, so if somebody was just getting started with trying to really put some key organizational tactics in place, especially us going into a new year, so they've got their Google Calendar open, the very first thing they should do for kind of going through the getting things done methodology that you mentioned is schedule in the personal time. Right? You know you're going to take 30 minutes every morning to do XYZ that's personal. So don't try to skip that. Don't feel bad about having that 30 minutes of time, or don't feel like, oh, I need to cut that out or whatever. Put it in your calendar. Put in, like you say, a walk for your pups every 2 to 3 hours. Put in the date nights. Put all of that stuff in, and then what is left is what you have to work with, right? And so then at that point, you can start plugging in the other important things, and it's important to leave a little space in between each thing, because you never know if something's going to take a little bit longer or what's going to happen. Is that kind of how somebody would put it together if they're just starting out? Did I explain it correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. That was perfect. And it's that piece is so important, that you're starting with the personal stuff, because your personal items are your commitment to yourself, to getting out and doing those things that feed your soul, that make you smile, that just allow you to release all of that stress. So yeah, that's the first thing you want to get in there, and go as far out as you possibly can. And so block out those important times, and depending on your business, you may want to focus on, something very creative. So I tend to batch, because it's, for me, very hard to move from right brain to left brain. So for example, it's not easy to switch back and forth between a very creative project, such as maybe writing a whole webinar, as opposed to operational items where I've got to go take care of, those pieces that aren't my favorite thing to do, but they absolutely have to get done for your company to run. So you want to make sure that you're spacing those things out according to your best times. So everybody has those most productive hours during the day. I think it's a myth of the 9 to 5. I think that's been, propaganda put out by the corporate world that we're supposed to work 9 to 5. That is not the optimal hours for everybody. No. And I know for myself, it's absolutely not. So you need to figure out when you are most focused, when you are best on the phone, if that's something you've got to do, when you're best face-to-face, if you're doing, lunches or coffees or dinner, whatever that looks like, figure out how to best work that into your day and into your schedule. And I love your point about even scheduling in those breaks, because that's something we let slide too, where you can be so deep into something 3 hours later, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I haven't even gotten up. My butt is killing me. You've been there where it's like, what am I doing? Because you've just been so deep into that. So it's important that you give yourself enough time to focus, really get a good chunk done of whatever that particular task is, and then give yourself 10, 15 minutes to take a break and relax.
And I think what you said there is worth repeating, and that is that I guess the way I would describe it is, if you're going to put all this personal time and all these breaks into your calendar, you might be thinking, well, how am I going to get enough work done for the day? But the key is, when you're in the middle of one of those chunks that's your work time, you have to give that task 100% of your attention.
There you go.
Yep. Okay, so say you've got from 12 to 2 every day blocked out to do XYZ. You can't have a tab open in your computer to Twitter and get caught up 15, 20 minutes of time answering tweets or on Facebook or whatever. That's not how this works. If you're going to be, right? I'm only saying this because I've learned this the hard way. And I also am saying this because I've seen you focus so hard on something for a short period of time. And it's just such a incredible thing when you do that, because you're able to get so much more done.
Yeah. And, you know, your point and what Bruno says here, I think are such good points. Flow and getting things done don't go well together. And I thought that too, initially, when I first started getting things done. It was, gosh, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe. My business coach, who just a amazing human being, had said, Rebecca, we're going to kind of rework your calendar and we're going to go based off of this. And so I had really done a deep dive into all things getting things done. And it was way too structured for me initially, where I did feel as if I didn't have the flexibility to work when I felt this was my best time. So I've really, and I know I've written about this and we've talked about this, I've really hacked the system. I hacked it for my own life, where there's tons of structure, but there's also that flexibility, so that I can focus on my highest and best in that exact right environment too. That's another important piece. So just to throw this out there as well, you know, for a lot of us, it's not just having the quiet or that exact right hour, but it's being in the exact right location. So for me, when I was writing my book that we released in July, I spent a solid hour every single morning sitting by my pool and just writing, because it was super quiet. It was a space where I felt like I could just get really creative. I didn't have any notifications. I didn't have anybody coming at me, talking to me, needing me, tugging at me. So it's that too, depending on what you're doing. It's making sure that you're putting yourself into a space that's conducive to your optimal task, whatever it is.
Right.
Trying to write more, or trying to do a whole lot of research, or trying to create a whole new program. Whatever that is give yourself the opportunity to work at your highest and best by setting yourself up for success.
And for me, it's exactly what you said. I know what times of day I feel like doing certain things, because I feel the flow, the energy for those certain things. Right. And I try my best. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but I try my best to schedule those things in the right time slot, because I know if somebody wants me to do something at 11 o'clock at night where I have to actually be using my brain, it's just not going to work. But at 4 or 5 in the morning, I'm ready to go. So it's just knowing yourself, you know.
At 4 or 5 in the morning, I'm still asleep. But you are amazing in that sense.
No, it's not really a matter of being amazing, because I'm falling asleep at 9:30 at night, you know. So it's just however you work your schedule, you know. Absolutely. It's just knowing your body and knowing what works best.
And not fighting against it. I think for too many years when I was younger, I thought that I needed to fit myself into this perfect little box of getting things done or whatever the situation was. And I just felt this constant tug of war. It's like, why am I fighting against myself? So it's figuring out that flow, like you said, and figuring out how you can maximize the time you do have in your day without getting to the end of the day and feeling like, oh, I still have, 50 things that have to get done.
Right.
And so it's setting boundaries for yourself as well. So in knowing I am going to get off the computer or I'm going to be on my last call and done by, 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock or whatever that cutoff is for you. If you've got to pick up your kids, the last call of the day is over and done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So really building that around your life so that you can enjoy your life and business instead of, feeling as if, like I said earlier, you're carrying around the weight of the world because you've got so many open-ended tasks that are just hanging out, not done, and giving yourself that freedom to work through those one by one.
Right.
And doing it in a sequential order so that you can get to the end of the week and actually go, oh, look at all that I have accomplished. It's amazing. Well, and it all depends on how your brain works too. So for me, I'm a very linear thinker. So I can see end to end. I can see a project and I can know exactly what I want the outcome to be. And I can reverse engineer, kind of back myself into all of those tasks. So you also have to understand how your brain works and how you're going to work those tasks into your day so that you're getting them done. You're getting all of those projects done. And they all come together in this big, beautiful culmination, at the end of your week or at the end of your month. Because that's another area where we can play tug of war with ourselves, where we listen to all these productivity gurus and we listen to all these people out there that are doing so many amazing things. And then we try to take all of it and smash it into our lives. And we're like, why is this not working?
Yeah,
why?
It's the same thing. So many people who I hear talk about different things, they need to preface what they're saying with, this is what works for me. You have to find what works for you because every person is different. We all have different, we're working with a different machine. We all have our own body sync and brains, and you've got to find what works for you, because just because somebody says, that they're doing something, it doesn't mean it'll work for you. Yeah. So just to wrap this up in our next couple minutes here, like I said, it's become a little bit of a tradition that at the end of our shows here, we talk about tools that would be useful for the topic we're talking about. And I know that you and I have talked about many productivity tools over the years. What are your favorites? Which ones do you think are the most helpful? And why?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a few. I'm going to write these down. Yeah, so first one, I started to mention, I do a lot on my whiteboard. It's just a great creative process for me when I'm building out something new or really trying to think through, let's say we're creating a whole new marketing funnel and I really need to think through all of those pieces. It helps me to flesh those out. So the tool I use every single day is the Day One app. And what I love about this is that all I do is take my iPhone, take a picture of my whiteboard, and boom, I can just immediately take that picture, send it into my Day One app with any notes. So a lot of times, because I can't stand typing because it takes too long, I do voice to text. And I will just read most of my bullet points really fast off of my whiteboard, and those just become my notes. And all of those notes are then searchable within the Day One app. Now, I can set reminders, notifications, which I don't use it for any of that. It's really just a way for me to capture all of my ideas for me to add a visual aspect to that. So I can go back and I can look at what did I whiteboard? And I don't know about you, but it's a phenomenal journal for me because there are so many things, so many ideas I have that I go back to and I'm like, why didn't we do anything with that?
Yeah.
So it's just a great resource to constantly filter back through and keep yourself just in tune with what's going on with your business or just that creative moment that you might have had. So it's a great resource, great place. I just house kind of everything in that one location.
Okay.
Another tool that I love and just started using not that long ago because I've tested quite a few. I said I'm a big Gmail user. And as you can imagine, there are a ton of plugins out there for productivity. And my favorite is followup.cc. And this one allows me to do a few different things. First of all, exactly what it says, I can schedule when I want to follow up with that person. So let's say I'm emailing somebody back and saying, hey, what do you think about this idea? And I know it's probably going to take them a couple of days to get back to me. I'll just set a reminder right in Gmail, and that's going to pop it right back up to the top of Gmail for me as a reminder to get back in touch with that person.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's fantastic. And
I'm constantly stopping what I'm doing, sending myself reminders about things, sending myself emails to remind myself, and then they get buried. That's so awesome.
Well, and there's plenty of other tools, like I said, that will take it, even further, where you could set little reminders that would go out to that person and say, it'll pay attention to whether or not they opened that email, and it'll just nudge them and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you saw my email. We've got a deadline, so, get back with me. And you could set that. So there's so many different ways to productively manage your email, but I find with the overwhelming amount of email I get on a daily basis that this one really works well for me, where it's like that little tap on the shoulder, of Rebecca, Diana's waiting to hear from you, or, you didn't hear back from Diana. So it's just a friendly way to, stay on top and keep things moving. Another one that I just stumbled upon and love is a content curation plugin for Chrome, which is Zest, ZEST.is. And it is exactly that. It curates all of this amazing content that I love to read. That my mornings are, I joked about how I've kind of hacked my days, and my mornings are, I'm a cyclist, so I ride about 20 miles every morning.
What? Wait a minute, back up. You ride your bike 20 miles a day?
I do. Well, okay, 6 days a week, not 7. I took yesterday.
How did I not know this?
And so as you can imagine, I'm like, what can I do with that hour? And being that I'm an educational sponge, I feel like I'm always learning. I've kind of hacked that time. So that's my learning time. And so I am constantly taking, Stanford courses from Coursera, or taking or listening to a new book on Audible, or catching up on some podcast. So I've kind of hacked my morning and turned it into that educational time for myself. And so Audible is one of my absolute favorite apps. My podcast app, right? I love it.
Did you see what Michelle said? She's like me. She's like, what? You ride your bike? Rebecca, seriously, you're not a human being. I'm convinced. Are you like made out of plastic or what? I mean, come on.
Whatever. No, it's just, to me it was, I ran for many, many years, and terrible hips, terrible knees, and just couldn't do it anymore. And so the hubby and I decided, so I don't know if I've ever told you this. I'm getting some feedback. Are you getting feedback?
I haven't touched anything.
Weird.
Did it go away?
Let's see. No, it's still there.
All right, let me.
Took it out.
Okay. Now it's not there.
Okay.
And
How's that?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Who knows? Random. Anyway, I was going to say, so my dad has been a cyclist for, I don't know, 25 years. He turned his entire life around, lost, not like he was a heavy guy, but lost a bunch of weight, biked across America. And ever since then, I just really got bit by the cycling bug. And so my husband and I, it's just something we really enjoy doing together and going out and finding there's just so many different beautiful paths and exploring. And I tell you what, it is a whole different way of seeing the world. And so for me, as I said, I love being out in nature, and I just get to get out and ride and listen to somebody amazing talking about their book or some new idea. And so it's just a great way for me to combine doing two different things that I absolutely love. And the most important part for me in the productivity aspect is I take control of my day. I don't allow my day to take control of me, where that's so easy to have happen, where, you've got all these emails and all these notifications and all these people need something from you. And before you know it, your day is totally owned by somebody else. And this allows me to clearly set my intention and not allow my day to run away and feel as if I got nothing done. So,
yes,
there you have it.
Wow. I know we're at the top of the hour, so we need to close this out. But I have to tell you, this was worth the wait, because, as you know, I've wanted to talk to you about this for years. And it's just, you are a wealth of information.
Seriously. Oh, I don't know, Diana. Like I said, it's something that I have been so committed to over the many, many years of my life, and worked with so many amazing coaches, because I believe we all, need to surround ourselves with those people that have mastered certain areas of their lives, because they really allow us to think outside of ourselves and think outside of those. And as you know, I'm a systems and processes girl. So I'm just always looking for that way to tweak something, to find a better mousetrap, as they say. And simplicity is, as I've gotten older, is the name of the game for me. Is simplify.
Yes, completely agree. And
I know we are right on the same page with that whole minimalism, and let go of the stuff.
Exactly. Well, thank you very, very much. And I agree. Oh, Natasha, you're so sweet. And I agree. This was amazing. I am coming away from this feeling very inspired. And I'm sure everyone who watches this, and those who may see the replay, I know that they'll feel inspired as well. So thank you for sharing all your nuggets of wisdom. And we're all going to be more productive because of today, because we're on it.
Well, thank you, Diana. You just so many terrific questions. And as you know, we could talk about this all day. Every day. And then do we accidentally blow our whole idea of productivity if we do that? Probably.
Oh, okay. Now it's like mind equals blown.
Yeah.
We keep our productivity from talking about productivity.
That's funny. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we will do this again. For sure.
Yes. And thanks to everybody, Kim, Leanne, Natasha, Bruno, so much great feedback. Michelle, if I didn't catch your questions, I'll definitely respond. But I saw Leanne said she just realized, and we didn't even plan this, we wore orange and black for Halloween, which I love.
Oh, yes. Happy Halloween, everybody. I didn't even notice that. Yeah.
I did the orange on purpose, but I didn't know you were going to wear black. So
well, I noticed your fingernails are orange too. I did pick up on that. Yes. All right. Well, we'll see everyone again soon. And thank you, Rebecca. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.